So I've been trying to be on the Pathfinder 2 subreddit more often. One of the things that keeps coming up is people not happy with the encounters. I can't hit anything, fights always feel like a slog, I keep getting crit, why does this game always feel unsatisfying? Now, the subreddit is more than happy to point out that usually the problem comes down to how the encounters are built. And you know what? They're kind of right. Hey everyone, the voice you're hearing is mine. I am Obscura, and the lovely visage you see before you is my eldritch buddy Wheaton. We're kind of in a shared body situation, but you don't have to worry about that because today we want to help you build better encounters in PF2. Now, before we continue, I want everyone to know this is a zero judgment zone. I've screwed up so many encounters in the past, and I just want to help GMs make some fantastic encounters for the future. So yes, this is a fundamentals video, but I think we could all do it for a reminder from time to time. What are we going to be covering? Like I said, this is going to be a fundamentals video, so we will be going over the three major tables that help us build encounters for Pathfinder 2. That is the encounter budget, the creature XP and roll table, then the quick adventure groups table. Then we're going to put together some test encounter groups to act as an example for the dangers you may put against your players. Then we're going to finish off by talking about the biggest pitfall we all fall into regarding encounter design in this system. Let's begin! Encounters in PF2 are anytime you are in initiative. This doesn't necessarily mean combat, but combat is the majority of it, so we'll be leaving talk of other kinds of encounters for a later video. I mentioned at the start that 3 tables help us build encounters, so let's go through them. The first is encounter budget, which is split into 5 categories: trivial, low, moderate, severe, extreme. The second column is what your XP budget is for each, and then the third is for character adjustments for when you have more or less PCs. To get ahead of it, the main assumption is the 4 PCs, so that's what we're going to be working with today. For the most part, when building encounters, you'll be building them using these top 3 rows. There's going to be a temptation to build severe and extreme encounters, but resist the urge. These 2 encounter budget categories are for important combats, plot arc bosses, and run a high risk of wiping the party. If you use them too much, even if your players can overcome them, it can lead to a feeling of dissatisfaction from your players, as every combat will feel like a struggle. Otherwise, trivial is for when the combat is necessary but not a challenge. Low is slightly more of a challenge, but is mostly for attrition, and moderate is for more challenging encounters where there's some danger. Just quickly, when building a dungeon where you want the expectation to be a lot of combat over an adventuring day, you'll be wanting to have the majority of them be trivial and low, capping it up with a moderate encounter or severe if it's significantly important, but please use caution as it will be a significant challenge. So now we have an idea of encounter budget. How do we decide what creatures to slot in there? This is where the creature XP and roll table comes in handy. The first column here represents the creature. You'll notice this is not static levels, but is related back to the level of the party. The second is how much they're worth in XP. And then the third is their suggested roll. To put it all together, if you have a level 5 party, a level 1 creature such as a Reef Claw, which is 4 levels lower than the party, would be worth 10 XP, and be considered a low threat lacking. Whereas with the same level 5 party, a Harpy, which is level 5 as well, would be worth 40 XP and be considered any standard creature or low threat boss. To finish this off, same party, a Cuckoo Hag, which is level 9 and 4 levels higher than the party, would be worth 160 XP and be considered an extreme threat solo boss. Putting this together, if we want to put our level 5 party against a trivial encounter, we have an XP budget of 40, so we could have them fight 4 Reef Claws, 10 XP each, or 1 Harpy, which is worth 40 XP. Now, if we want to do a moderate encounter, we can have the party go up against 4 Reef Claws and the Harpy, because combined they would be worth 80 XP, thus fulfilling the encounter budget. If we wanted to pump that up to severe, we could just add another Harpy, because that would be our 80 for moderate, and then another Harpy worth 40 to make it the 120 required to fulfill the severe encounter budget. The examples I just gave there are pretty rough, and not something I would necessarily recommend for a party, though that Harpy and 4 Reef Claws would make for an interesting moderate encounter. What I would suggest instead is using the third chart sidebar called Quick Adventure Groups. These are 7 examples of encounter groups ranging from severe to low in threat that list what kind of group it is, how much XP it's worth, and what the composition of the encounter group would be. Now I'll be honest, while you're learning to build encounters, dungeons, adventures, whatever, going from this table will serve you well. These examples provide the basis and an accurate depiction of proper encounter building for PF2. You'll notice for the 3 severe 120 XP encounter groups, none of them are solo bosses. This is important to note, as there is a temptation to just throw solo creatures at a party for severe and extreme encounters. Resist the urge, especially when you're first starting, because they are rarely as satisfying encounters as they may seem. Alrighty, so we have our trinity of tables for building encounters, so how do we put these together? Well, let's make some. For this, we're going to be using these tables to make 3 encounter groups for our level 5 party. 1 severe, 1 moderate, and 1 low. The first we're going to do is low. We're starting here because we're going to use this as the foundation to build the higher threat encounters. So we look at our quick adventure groups table and see that one example is a Mook Squad, worth 60 XP, and contains 6 creatures of party level -4. The temptation to make these reef claws, you have no idea. So we need a creature that is 4 levels lower than our party, so level 1. We have some options here, but we're going to go with the Jinkin because they're level 1, that makes them worth 10 XP, and fill out our Mook Squad. We just need 6 of the blighters. Already a story is starting to emerge here with our adventuring party being attacked in town by gremlins. It's a low-level encounter, so our heroes will be triumphant. But oh, what's that? One of the townsfolk has been kidnapped by the rest of the gremlins? It's up to our heroes to deal with it. So, pursuing them through a nearby forest, the gremlins catch wind of the pursuers, and there is a quick order to the lieutenant to take some of the gremlins and stop the pursuit. This gives us our moderate encounter for 80 XP, lieutenant and lackeys. So, we already have our lackeys, the Jinkin from the earlier Mook Squad. So now all we need is one creature that's level 5. Now we have a theme going here of small menaces, so an easy one that stands out is a Redcap. This one will operate as our lieutenant. Same level as the party, so they're worth 40 XP. Add in 4 Jinkin, each worth 10 XP, and we have our moderate encounter group. The heroes defeat the Redcap and the rest of the Jinkin, but they are aware that the villager is still in danger, so they don't take too much time to rest and recover before pushing forth. Getting to the lair of these terrible creatures is time for our severe encounter against the boss. For this, we're building on our low threat foundation, so we're going to be selecting boss and lackeys. Like before, we already have them, so we add 4 Jinkin to the encounter, and now we just need a creature that is 2 levels higher than the party, level 7. Because of this level increase on the party, it'll be worth 80 XP. And because you should always stick to a through-line theme, we're going to go with Nigel Thornberry, a Pugwudgie, a nasty level 7 Fae. This gives us our boss and lackeys for a severe encounter with 120 XP, and is going to be a bit of a challenge for our heroes. Putting them all together, low is worth 60 XP, moderate is worth 80 XP, severe is worth 120 XP. So totaling them, we get 260 XP, or about a quarter of a level if using XP for levels. Incidentally, with a little roleplay thrown in there, this would probably accommodate a full session of play in Pathfinder 2. Now, quickly, before we finish up, some pitfalls when encounter building. As mentioned before, single boss creature encounters. Don't. At least not until you have a bit more experience, and the same with your party. Moreover, I would suggest against creatures that are 4 levels higher than the party. The disparity in stats is going to mean they will barely hit the thing, and it's going to crit them all the time. Even if your party overcomes it, likely someone's PC is dead, and a lot of the time it's just going to feel like a slog. I get the temptation. I do. Single boss encounters make for some fantastic set pieces, especially coming from video games, but in PF2 it just makes for a bad time. Yes, I know Paizo does this. I've run Abomination Vaults. I can't give you a good answer. But even at lower threat levels, a single boss is likely just going to be ganged up and be overwhelmed by the players. This is why lackeys are important, and if you haven't watched it already, my video on upgrading underlings will hopefully help you make them more interesting and better for a big fight. Other thing before we wrap this up, I'm going to shout out builder.pf2easy.com. This is the website that I've used to put together encounters quickly because it gives a running tally of the budget. I don't necessarily go through the monster lists or anything like that, but it makes it a lot easier to put them together. It's a fantastic site and I highly recommend it for your own encounter building, whether you're using a VTT or you're at a physical table. To conclude, this has mostly just been the fundamentals of encounter building, and I feel a good solid understanding of encounter design in the system can really help you to make some amazing encounters that your players will love. I am considering a video for more advanced methods of encounter building, so leave a comment below if you want to see that, or hell, if you found this video helpful in general. I would suggest reading the section in the GM core on encounter design, or go to the Archives in Nephis link below, covering the same thing. It goes into a lot more detail than I did here, and even goes into other encounter types, more advanced methods, and discusses enemy dynamics and motivations. Also, if you want to support the channel, subscribing goes a long way, and if you have a couple of dollars to throw my way and get access to a bunch of content I design, like these wonderful people, links to my Patreon are down below. Otherwise, I hope you have a good day, a good night, a good week, no matter where you are in the world, and remember, as always, we are the storytellers.